Hi there, what's up, what's down, what's sideways? James here for day 58 of Chronic Fatigue Syndrome, my friend, my enemy, my constant companion. Ah, so, today I took a sword class. Because sword is my thing. Sword is my happy place. Now, Chronic Fatigue Syndrome does not care what you're doing. It does not care who you are or what you're doing. It is indifferent. So I was doing two-person work with sword, and I could feel my body's responses lagging. It's a really weird feeling because like I'm aware, like at first like hang on, this isn't right, and then next one's like I'm aware, so my stabs are a little bit off because my muscle control's going. My distance is a little bit off because like things are degrading a little bit. My physicality is degrading a bit, and this is during sword work, and I'm teaching the class, and I'm supposed to be it. Now, it's a really good point to always remember that you're human, regardless of whether or not you got chronic fatigue syndrome or not. But I'm it, so I'm supposed to have these mad skills and be able to do all this stuff. It is only through my training and the level difference between me and the people I was working with that I was able to offset my chronic fatigue syndrome enough so that it wasn't too much of an issue, but I was having to dig into a skill set that I shouldn't have for the people I was working with. And by that I mean like, so I was in a class of beginners to intermediate, and I was having to do footwork and stuff that was a little bit above what I would have normally had to use when working with such a grade. It's not a being complacent with them. It's just the stimulus is different, and therefore you respond differently. I don't use the more advanced stuff straight away because that will throw them off and their learning. So when they're in the learning phase of like, I try and just use what they're using, so that way they can see how what they're using can be applied to a higher level than what they physically can do now. But as you progress, you learn more advanced stuff, and you get to add that in. So I'm there doing two-person work. We're at our free play, and I feel my body skills degrading, and it's really frustrating because I can't just go, oh, that happened because I've got CFS. You know, like you in a sword fight, the opponent's sword doesn't know whether you're a master grade, whether you're a novice, whether it's your first class, whether you've got chronic fatigue syndrome or you're having a bad day. The person opposite you and their sword don't know, don't care. And in a real fight, don't know but care because how can they take advantage of it? Because I would take advantage of it. We all would take advantage of it. But I don't. Having chronic fatigue syndrome, I'm constantly having to use my skills to offset the I guess the best word is the degradation in motor responses and stuff like that, so that I can still perform at a certain level. If I was going against someone of a similar grade as me, I would have been in trouble, real trouble. I would have been having a really bad day. If we had been in a real fight, then really bad day. So, I can't, when you interact in the world, I can't go around going, oh, I didn't do that, or I couldn't do that because of chronic fatigue syndrome. The real world doesn't care. It's not designed to care. It's designed to care about an outcome. So your effort and your attitude is absolutely important. However, your outcome is what determines your success, in a way, for when you're interacting with other people. So your personal success is, any success is a success. Doesn't matter whether, but when you're interacting with other people, say when you go to a job and you've got goals, the business has goals, then your success is based on those goals. Okay, so you may have your personal success of like, I got to work today. Woo! Like, go you. But in terms of the business goals, you didn't match it. Okay, and so your personal successes are always valid. You don't need the validation of anyone else. They're always worth it. And you don't ever need to put them down. You don't ever need to hold them up to anything else. They are successes. You own it. However, if you go to a job and you have to talk to 20 people a day and you talk to 15, you did not meet the requirements. Okay, so when I go and take a sword class and I'm interacting with people and I'm trying to use the same skills, I'm trying to use the same module of information that I've shared with them, if I can't, then I haven't been successful. Okay, if I can't because of my chronic fatigue syndrome, I don't get to say, oh, blah blah. What I may end up saying to people, I may say to people like, oh, I'm having an off. I might explain to them like, I shouldn't have done that there. I slipped into more of what I do. So I usually won't share that it's a CFS thing, but the worse I feel, the more I slip into my personal skill set. Because that's what my body can do on a really bad day. I can always do my personal skill set. So if I'm working with a student and I do something outside of their module, I will point out and it's like, hey, I shouldn't have done that. I slipped into my skill set. You know, I'll bring it back here. If I had stayed there, you would have tagged me, or you would have rah rah, so that they know that what they were doing was right and that it was on me. I won't say I slipped into my skill set because of my chronic fatigue syndrome, and you know I'm feeling worse, and my body will just resort to what it can do when it feels bad. Normal people will revert to their preferred skill set under stress, so it's a normal thing to do anyway. It's just I'm aware that I'll do it working with people who aren't of the same skill level because of my chronic fatigue syndrome, as opposed to necessarily just what I'm training. It does happen. It will happen. It can happen. Completely devoid of chronic fatigue syndrome. But today, it happened because I was just... I could feel like my body just went blah. Like it's just like, nah. The content they're using is too hard for you right now, James. And there's this constant like, no, stay with what they're doing. Like, but I could just use this and be done with it. So it's always that constant thing with chronic fatigue syndrome, is that you don't get to complain about it. And complaining about it doesn't help, and wallowing doesn't help. But sometimes it'd be really nice. Like if I could go, man, you know, chronic fatigue syndrome, that's why when I'm holding my sword out, the tip's waving. It's like, because the tip of the sword, a display of skill is when you can move it and the tip doesn't wobble, because you have control of the entire blade. It's like a, you know, feather in the cap kind of thing, and I can do it. That is within my skill set. I can do pretty much any strike and control the tip at the end. You won't see any wobble at the end. But there are days when my body is just blur, and I will see the tip move, and it could be half a centimeter, 5 mils. It could be like, which is a 1, 2, the fifth of an inch, something like that. Come on, Americans, let's go centimeters and meters. Yeah. Anyway, so like that much. It could just be really tiny. So my hands have a little bit of shake. I don't know if the camera's picking up shake right now, but I personally have the skill set to not have a shake. I have the skill set to not have the tip of my sword shake, and it always throws me off with my pride a little bit when I'm demonstrating for students. Like, yes, you must be able to keep your tip, you know, controlled, and I'm seeing at the very end shake, because my body's it's got the shakes, and I can override it to a point. I can control it to a point. I can direct it to a point. I can function with it to a point, but it still slips out sometimes. I don't have full, complete control when I'm not in an... if I was like switched on and fighting for the period of that time, yes, I would have full control of my skills. How I would be afterwards, though, is likely wrecked going on past experiences. I have wrecked myself. I have the ability to put my all into it, and I have like gone down in convulsions and been totaled. They had to like roll out a blanket roll and roll me onto the blankets on the training mats. I was gone. So I have the skill. So when you got chronic fatigue syndrome, you have to go easy on yourself. You can't be harsh on yourself. At the same time, don't accept excuses, because otherwise you'll stop growing. So if I go, oh, it's fine, the little wobble at the tip of my sword doesn't mean anything, it's fine, it's just my chronic fatigue syndrome, that's a cop-out. Like, yeah, I have to accept that sometimes it will happen, but it's a cop-out. If I accepted that, I'd never try and improve it, because any time it wobbled, it's chronic fatigue's, fault, and not the fact that maybe I haven't been training it as much, or maybe I haven't given it its focus, or rah. So, you don't let it stop you, okay? But it's just sometimes really frustrating, especially when you're in a highly skilled thing like sword work, or teaching sword work, because it's 5 millimeters is a huge distance in sword work sometimes. So I just want to share that, like life with chronic fatigue, and in my line of work with swords. Yeah. So if you have any questions, please feel to ask away, introduce yourself, like, share, subscribe, and hit the little notification button. Thank you very much for letting me share with you Day 58.